The 6.5 is on the road and we are live here at HPE Discover 2025 in Las Vegas. Daniel, it has been a great show so far. Can you believe it's the second day? And we have heard a lot about hybrid cloud, AI, and networking. Those are the three top things that we heard at the keynote, and that has permeated the entire event.
Yeah, and I mean, the event had this amazing atmosphere. We were inside the Sphere, which anyone out there that has experienced a number of Vegas keynotes, and I joke with you sometimes on this show, like, we're professional event attenders. We go to hundreds of these every year. We sit in these crowds. The Sphere is an epic experience for us as analysts to be able to sit there, because you actually aren't staring at a pole and a wall and just slides. You can see the person, the speaking, and of course it's better when the content's strong. And to your point, it hit on three things I think you and I have long been passionate about. Network, it's going to be the driver of AI growth. A lot of people want to talk about just compute, which we'll get to. Then of course, hybrid cloud, it's been a big part of the HPE story. GreenLake was in there in a big way, which of course is an underpinning and something you and I have chronicled for years. And then of course at the end, the AI, the NVIDIA, the compute, that was the fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, nothing beats a 50-foot Antonio Neri. But it is our privilege to bring him in 16 by 9 on the 6.5. Antonio, welcome back to the show.
Well, good afternoon, guys.
Yeah, I was laughing, a 50-foot. Is that how tall it is?
No,
It's bigger.
the entire sphere is like 150 feet.
It is.
tall.
Yeah. But you are, it's about a 1/3.
Yeah, I was bigger yesterday.
You were looking good, you were shining bright, and like I said, because the way that place is set up, I mean, you've been around tech a long time. You've done events at places like this.
Well, HPE was the first company to do the big keynote at the Sphere.
Yeah. And the only company that did it twice.
There we go, there we go.
You were first of your time, but you've also been in venues like this where you did it in the regular stage, where you've got that sprawling room and you got people in seats and they can't see you, so they come all the way out here. So I think it was such a nice thing. It's audible, it's clear.
Yeah.
And what a great way to get your message out, show your technology, but also just something I was going to tell you is some of the video work, and I'm sure this was inspired by you, but really the narrative and the storytelling and the stitching, I think that was so great.
Well, thank you. Look, it was fun to do it again inside Sphere. And it takes a lot of work because it forces you to be ready way, way in advance, not the day before, way, way in advance of delivering, the keynote. And, from the narrative, obviously aligned to the strategy and the announcements you're going to make, through the production on that screen. The rendering alone takes enormous amount of work and hours, and you have to go through an iterative process that takes many, many times. And so I'm really proud of what the team had done. As you said, I have to be heavily involved because it's my story, it's the story of the company.
Right.
And at the same time, the team had to be ready with all the announcements we made, because one of the things I do, and I'm very, very maniacal about this, is linking the keynote to the show floor. And so if you obviously follow the keynote from, look, here's our vision, started with networking, going through hybrid cloud and AI, this is exactly how the show floor is structured. You enter the networking, going through the hybrid cloud, all the announcements we made, and then end in the AI space. But also we had the new brand, right? Which we're very, very proud to showcase.
Yeah, I like the way you made it, the personal touch you put on. I mean, listen, I've been part of 150 brand refreshes, but I like the way you tied it to the culture, but also to the technology. I thought that was good.
Yeah, and so let's get to the hard stuff. No, I'm kidding, all the tech stuff here, Antonio. I mean, the Discover's the moment, but the road to Discover, you've been very focused on, having that kind of steady drumbeat of innovation. You've been focused on hybrid cloud, you're focused on AI, GreenLake and the growth. I think every quarter you and I do a little conversation, I do a little cheer, because 5 years ago, is it 6 now? 5-6 years ago, you said we are going all in.
Yeah.
And you've done it, and it's a $2 billion+ ARR business. I say sometimes I think it's underappreciated by the street, so I'll call that out right now. I think the street.
It is underappreciated.
It is underappreciated. You and I agree on that. So, but talk a little bit kind of how this road and these recent announcements, because now it's all about AI. It's about leadership. It's about helping your enterprises drive to the future. So, how are you thinking that the culmination of all these announcements in this event is really driving HPE's leadership in the space?
First of all, it started with conviction and consistency. So look, 7.5 years ago, I was convicted of the market trend we were seeing, starting at the edge, where it was the on-ramp to drive the digitization of the enterprise. Look, this space is a prime example. We had 14, 15,000 people roaming through the floor. You need to give the connectivity.
Yes.
And every engagement we have with each and every one of them is a digital engagement. Without the connectivity, it can't do any of that. In fact, here behind us, you also have visible the NOC. And we actually showcase the blueprint of all the access points and the telemetry we are collecting at the network level and how we're managing security and so forth. So that was that, and obviously I did it on the back of the Aruba networking acquisition I did in 2015. And I will argue the Aruba has been an incredible success. We took it from $1.4 billion to over $5 billion in 8 years. But when you look at the future with cloud and AI, networking becomes the core foundation, and that's why I'm pursuing the acquisition of Juniper Networks, because that gives the complementarity from the edge to the core to the cloud. And we are very excited to complete that, in this fiscal year. Then on the cloud side, we always talk about, cloud enabled, and for me, cloud enabled means an experience, not a destination.
Right.
And we designed GreenLake, to your point, more than 5 years ago, with a hybrid by design set of principles. Meaning everything we do inside that cloud needs to be cloud native and AI driven. And so every infrastructure we deliver, whether it's networking at the edge and in the data center, or our servers and our storage and our private cloud and all the services, are now built and delivered through GreenLake. It's the bridge that takes you into the future. And we see now more than 42,000 customers on the platform. And to your point, we already existed at $2.2 billion in annualized revenue run rate. But in terms of contracted value, is exceeded already $15 billion. And so that's revenue that will unwind over time. And then inside our hybrid cloud, obviously, we learn opportunities along the way in storage to provide a modern, disaggregated architecture for both structured and unstructured data. And at this event, we announced the support of an intelligent protocol, which is the MCP, the Model Context Protocol, that makes that storage way more intelligent, so we can build AI pipelines faster, right? And then together with our world-class server portfolio, we build that into a private cloud for virtualization and private cloud for AI. And the private cloud for AI, obviously, is a deep partnership with NVIDIA. And then, obviously, the virtualization is a big opportunity because of what we see in the market. And so behind that wall, you see the Morpheus integration with VM Essentials to the unified private cloud.
That's right.
The integration with backup recovery, partnership with Commvault and Veeam. And then the unification of the cloud operations as well with Morpheus, so we can manage the public cloud instances. And then there is another crown jewel, which is OpsRamp. And that OpsRamp gives me 20 trillion data points for me to implement GreenLake Intelligence. And that GreenLake Intelligence is the agentic AI approach we announced yesterday. And then in the AI, obviously, is the AI factors of the future. And so there is the model builder service providers, the sovereign, the private, and the enterprise.
Gosh, what a payload of announcements that you just rattled off there.
But that's what he said, right? So we started the road to discover.
Yes.
So we announced new Wi-Fi 7 portfolio, new security features as a part of the SSC framework, right? We announced in the spring the Generation 12 servers, supporting the latest Intel processors, the latest NVIDIA processors. Yesterday, we announced the latest EPIC processor from AMD. We support direct liquid cooling in the enterprise class servers, in addition to the leadership class servers. And then, obviously, we announced the X10000. We extended the X10000 with the MCP. We continue to add more ISVs to the private cloud AI, 28 new ISVs into the platform. And then the expansion of the AI factory with support of the latest NVIDIA GPUs and AI at scale. And then obviously the AI mod pod the integration of
and there's more.
and integration of you know
We're not ready to sit back.
cooling, modular cooling that comes
Sure.
with it.
Yeah, as we've gotten to know each other, and I've written this in my write-ups, what I really have appreciated about your leadership style is you call out an industry trend, and you're right, and you go all in on it.
Most of the times.
Edge to cloud, right, was one of them. Everything will be hybrid, and everything will be as a service.
Yep.
And I really appreciated that. One thing I gave your teams a hard time about on the hybrid part was, well, wait a second, how can you be hybrid if you have no connectivity to the public cloud? And then you go and you acquire Morpheus,
Yeah.
which I was like, okay.
It was because of you, Pat.
Oh, yes, there we go.
You know he's going to
Hear
believe
this.
that now.
It's
He's
okay.
gonna run with
Because
that.
of Pat.
It's going to be a super clip.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, it's what enterprises want. It's what your customers want.
Yes.
Now you upped your game even more with unified private cloud.
Yes.
And I'm going to put you on the spot here. How does this change the competitive environment?
Well, look, I always guide myself from a customer feedback.
Yeah.
Look, customers are looking for an alternative. That's not the secret. And they want also a modern alternative that gives us openness, but also choice and flexibility.
Right.
With Morpheus, we can support the incumbency and the alternative, which is multiple,
Yes.
but also get them an alternative from our own portfolio, which is obviously the VM Essentials, and let them decide how they go through that journey as also they re-platform applications to container and bare metal. And that's the power of the VM Essential together with HPE Morpheus. And then to your point, because your feedback, the unification of the cloud with the public cloud experience. So, by the way, we also offer, as a part of GreenLake, 3 different deployment models. We offer the always connected.
That's right.
We offer the single tenant in the public cloud,
Right.
which is the virtual private cloud. And we offer as well the air-gapped, which is very important for sovereign reasons, but also very highly regulated environments. So it's not just the cloud experience, but the optionality of deployment as well.
Yeah, we heard Jensen's definitely leaning in. Day we're talking today, we're going to talk a little about your partnership with NVIDIA here, but I think, he definitely doubled down on every country's going to have a sovereign cloud, and I think, I've heard you say...
And I agree with him.
Well, when we were in Davos together,
Yeah.
we all saw that same thing, and all the tariffs have escalated that even further now. So,
But I share you an interesting stat. I'm not sure you know, but this is the interesting stat. So in the world, there are probably more than 12,000 data centers. More than 9,000 are in the United States.
right.
So the rest of the world has to catch up, because if you want to own your destiny, with AI being so transformative and disruptive, you have to own that closer to where you do work and also maintain sovereignty and as well as your cultural beliefs. So that's a very important aspect.
It's a good data point.
Well, it's a great data point, and finally we have the software stacks to pull it off, because quite frankly, for the past 15 years, and 15 years ago the public cloud started, we were always playing catch up. We thought OpenStack was the solution. It lacked a lot of things, but now, your platform and some of the other software platforms, I think we're here, and it's not just version 1.0.
No, it has matured dramatically.
Yes, exactly.
Look, AI is more ready than people think it is, but is as good as the data and the infrastructure you power it with.
True.
So let's talk a little bit about AI in the enterprise, because I think everyone is seeing the rapid proliferation consumption of certain consumer use cases and the LLMs.
Yep.
We're seeing the hyperscalers going really fast, right? This kind of insatiable CapEx number that...
Yes.
And HPE's got a really powerful story that it's done, its private cloud partnership, deeply integrated with NVIDIA for what it brings. But the market obviously is going to want to hear your differentiation, because there's a few companies out there that are thinking similarly, partnering with NVIDIA. Talk a little bit about kind of the generational improvements that you announced here, the key differentiation, and one other thing too is you're leaning in on enterprise, because I think the enterprise is adopting, is getting it, but it's such a massive opportunity, Antonio, and it's not a big part yet of the numbers that we've actually seen. in terms of revenues and margins in the market.
So I think we should decompose AI, and I'm a fan of customer segmentation and then, use cases. So on the customer segmentation side, I argue there are three key segments. There is the model builders and service providers of any size. So obviously the model builders, we know the names, right? The Groks of the world, the Mistrals, the OpenAI and Gemini and so forth, the DeepSeek and so forth. They need enormous amount of computational power to continue to make this model more accurate, to drive better reasoning, right? And that's the name of the game. What they're looking for is time to market with the latest technologies so they can reduce the cost per token training.
Sure.
Right? And obviously do it in a very sustainable way because the amount of energy is growing very rapidly. So that's one. There, HPE competes very simply because we have a deep partnership with NVIDIA on the AI factory, so many others to be fair, but our manufacturing capabilities, including direct liquid cooling, and the ability to service this at scale is very unique to us. And that's because we had a supercomputing heritage where we have been doing direct liquid cooling for 50 years, right? But it was a leadership class system that was built for a single purpose. Now that's fungible across this new AI space at scale. Then you go to sovereign, right? It looks a little bit like a supercomputer, but it does a different type of workload. The config maybe looks different, but the reality is there are 15, 20 countries that have the means to go do it. Look, we are building some of the AI clouds in Japan with AIST, in the UK with the Bristol University, right? And so forth. In some cases, they're going to deploy a supercomputer for simulation and modeling where they use AI to accelerate that simulation and vectorize the data. In other cases, they're going to configure more for AI to develop these models and then open it to the private ecosystem for sovereign reason.
Flops and tops.
Yeah, flops and tops. And then that obviously has a lot of interest also from a geopolitical perspective. Then you go to enterprise. And the enterprise, if you look at our last quarter, 1/3 of our numbers, bookings, came from enterprise. So what I see that is an acceleration because, look, there have been 2 years since the breakthrough was achieved. I think enterprise customer got a little bit more comfortable about a few things. Number one, the understanding of this alien stack is not the same stack that they use in cloud or virtualization. So they had a little bit more time understanding it, including the provenance of where these models come from. Number two is the fact that these models hallucinate less. And so they say, okay, let me see how this model operates with more accuracy. But I think one of the big accelerator has been the agentic AI. Because with agentic AI, it becomes more real. Because you take a workflow in enterprise, you digitize it, you automate it, and now you apply agentic AI processes to it, admins of sorts, like we do in our Green Lake, to do specific tasks. And you stitch all of them for an outcome. And I think that's what is also getting through it. And if you think about some of the partnerships we announced with Accenture, with AI Refinery, which they built with NVIDIA, or with Deloitte, with the Zora AI that they built with us on top of the private cloud AI, those are agentic AI processes, whether it's finance or procurement, whatever, that now enterprises see. And also the fact that there is better clarity on the return on investment. So we see now the momentum uptaking, and that's where also there is a lot of opportunities for differentiation.
Right.
In that environment, we really did something unique with NVIDIA. We co-engineer, we did not just take a recipe, which is not designed for enterprise, or maybe a very small sliver of enterprise, unless you are in quantum hedge funding or something. We took it for what I call the mirror model. If you do RAGing, fine-tuning, or small language training, or inferencing, we tightly couple their IP and RIP for time to value, speed of achievement, what they want with AI.
Exciting stuff. Gosh, as we wrap up here, I can't believe we haven't talked about security. So let's talk about security.
Yeah.
You brought new policy capabilities into HPE Aruba networking.
Yep.
And I'm curious, it's apparent to me how this helps in zero trust, but I'd like you to explain it anyways, because it's so important. You hit it a little bit up front, but also how does it extend value to customers in multi-vendor environments in networking?
Well, interesting enough, Aruba had a multi-vendor approach with clear paths in the policy management and deployment. And our approach is we trust nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Best definition of zero trust I've ever heard.
We trust nothing. And so when you do that, then our approach is to attestate every layer of the stack. As you go up the stack, we attestate everything. So on the networking side, the policy managed to trust nothing. We can extend it to competitors like Cisco. So we do that as well.
Interesting.
But when you go to the infrastructure, obviously, ILO 7 is a unique capability at the root of the hardware infrastructure that it serves both servers and storage, and therefore is also designed to be proof for quantum, meaning if quantum eventually breaks the encryption, right? Even if when the server is powered off, we actually protect the hardware from attacks, all right? On the networking side, the most important part is to now understand that encryption at the time of the issue of the certificate, not through the life cycle the first time. And so we are working on that. And then, obviously, is to protect your data. And this is where HPE Zerto plays a big role in the data protection, which gives you ransomware protection and gives you a cyber vault capability. And if you get encrypted for whatever reason, we actually can restore your environment in few seconds all the way to the application layer.
Interesting.
So Antonio, one last final opportunity. I'd love you to get a message out to the audience. It's great to have you here, but as the audience, the people, the crowd, and your customers, partners all sort of disperse after this event. Enough Kenny Chesney, the after party.
He's a great guy, by the way.
The after party glow, and of course in the sphere. But what is the kind of one or two big thematic takeaways you want them to go back that you think are going to be most important? And you definitely don't want to have been missed as they leave this year's Discover event.
Well, look, I hope they appreciate the fact that our strategy has been a consistent strategy, a curated strategy for today that bridges into the future. I'm very excited once the Juniper transaction closes to give our customers and partners a true alternative that's modern, secure, and AI driven, because I do believe, and we haven't spent too much time on the actual networking disruption we're going to see in the future, including quantum computing as we move to photonics and other, that's going to be an important element of the stack. And HPE will be at the core, believe it or not, a networking company, right? And this is the first time HPE will own, and if you go to HPE, every aspect of the stack, from the silicon to the infrastructure, to the operating system, to the software, to security, to the services. That will become the core fabric. And then GreenLake is the off-ramp into this new world, which is going to be all AI driven, including the infrastructure.
Right.
And so we use AI for the infrastructure, and we use infrastructure for AI. And so HPE has all the components to serve any segment of the market. And our strategy is basically founded on innovation. And that innovation drives shareholder value over the long term.
Did you say silicon?
I think he said silicon.
Silicon.
I'm all excited now.
That gets me going. Antonio, thank you so much for joining us here. Hope the rest of your event goes great, and look forward to sitting down with you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you covering the event. Look, it's always energizing to be with customers on the show floor.
For sure.
And thank you, everybody, for being part of this 6.5 on the road, live from HPE Discover 2025. It's been a great event. We appreciate you tuning into all the coverage. Subscribe, check out all of the great conversations that we had and our team around the show floor. For this episode, for this show, for this live segment, we got to say goodbye for now. Stay with us. More to come.